Hello everyone, happy 2020. Welcome to the new year. Why do I always start out with today? I don't know. Just like, this is what's happening. Today, I'm going to talk about how traveling is different for the depressed and anxious. Traveling is a lot of times taken for granted as like this really fun trip that you just go on and it's like a blast and there's like no worries and it's just like a great time. I feel like something that's not looked at as much is the downsides for traveling, especially with those with mental health struggles like depression and anxiety. Now, you would be like, what's so different about traveling if you have like depression or anxiety? Like, how is that going to affect you? Well, it may affect you more than you think. So let's talk about it.
Learning all the magic that we can.
I want to talk quickly about one of my resolutions I would like to do this year. I've been wanting to be more consistent in getting my videos posted for a long time now, but for several different reasons, it's been difficult for me to film, edit, and post videos as much as I would like to. But this year, one of my goals is to try to post 3 videos a month on this channel. I feel like that's a doable goal. I'm not setting like one every week because I'm going to see how it's going to go. So like 3 a month seems more flexible, I guess. It's difficult for me to be consistent because of various reasons that like I don't have a set place where I record. Like I don't have my equipment set up. So every time I film a video, I have to find a spot and set it all up. I have to wait until it's like a quiet moment. And sometimes that doesn't happen very often. It also takes me a long time to edit videos. It's like several hours go into each video because I want to make it like the best I can. But because of that, I feel like it takes a lot out of me and a lot of time and energy to do it. So I'm going to try to find ways to make it easier for me. I'm also like moving around every couple months. I feel like I'm like a nomad or something who's just like every couple months just like packs up and like travels off to somewhere else. Like I was just studying abroad for 3 months. I was back for like 3 weeks at home. Now I'm going back to my home college for 3 months. Then I'll be coming home for the summer for 3 months. And it's just like constant transitions. But that is my goal. I would really like to try to make 3 videos a month. That might not seem a lot to some people, but it's a lot to me. I looked back, the last time I filmed 3 videos in a month was like 2017, which was around the time that I started this channel. So let's hope that this resolution makes it to the end of the year. Like, I'm gonna try. We'll see. Mental illnesses may hit you harder than you think when you travel, especially to far distances like traveling to a different country or traveling for a long period of time. I recently studied abroad in England for a little more than 3 months, and I did not think I would have that hard a time with it because I had already been to England. I went on a 2-week trip to Europe several years ago, and I'd already been to England there for a few days. I was traveling with a group of strangers I didn't know, but I was like, I've already been places, like, I feel like, I'm gonna be able to handle this. But depression actually hit me a lot harder than I ever expected when I first arrived to England. It was a big change. Especially, I was basically living in a different country for several months. I didn't necessarily have an easy transition, I would say. I was surprised at like how hard it was for me to transition there. I didn't feel like I was fully getting transitioned until after I'd been there for like a month. That's a long time. By that time, I was like, well, pretty soon I'll have to be going home again. Yes. With depression, you can have a hard time adjusting. And even if it doesn't hit you at first, it might hit you later. Traveling is different for those with depression and anxiety because people with those mental health conditions have struggles that people who don't have those conditions don't have. And it's underestimated how much like energy and strength it takes to deal with those struggles. For example, anxiety, such as generalized anxiety or social anxiety, or even I've found that I actually even have performance anxiety. So like doing things in front of other people, things such as transportation anxiety, like getting nervous about getting on public transportation and trying to figure it out, something you're not familiar with. I did not realize how stressful it was to plan for a trip. Just planning, not just putting the actual trip aside. Planning the trip was much more stressful than I ever realized. Part of the reason for that was because I was not only just planning my trip of studying abroad. While I was abroad, I was planning like mini trips to other countries or other places while I was there. So I was planning like 4 or 5 different trips like at the same time, and it was very overwhelming. For someone with anxiety, that can just really amp it up. It took me a while to be able to find something that worked for me with planning and carrying out the trip without being anxious and stressed the entire time. Now, depression is also something you may not have a choice over. You can't choose if you're going to feel depressed when you go on this trip or not. When you are depressed, you tend not to have as much enthusiasm or energy as you normally would have. And I feel like in times of stress it is amplified. Traveling is stressful. It's fun, but it is stressful. You may also be dealing with the pressure of feeling like you have to get the most out of this trip while you're traveling. While you're depressed, you may have a limited ability to feel positive emotions. So you may not be feeling as enthusiastic as other people are going on this trip, even if you are looking forward to it. Your energy is also drained much faster. Trips can be tiring. There's a lot going on. You may not have the energy to deal with that, especially if you're going through like a depressed episode at the moment or the day or whatever. Especially in public places, if you are an introvert and you are depressed, your energy drains twice as much. So while you're doing public transport or you're visiting a public place with a bunch of crowds, your energy level is really going down even though you want to be experiencing this. Another thing is that when you are depressed, you tend not to feel as social. And if you are traveling in a group, the people around you, especially if they're younger people, might be really like enthusiastic and eager to like be talking to each other and being social, and you might want to withdraw from that and not feel the desire to be social at the time on your trip. So, how do you protect your self-health while traveling, especially during stressful transitional periods like traveling somewhere? You need to be finding ways to protect your self-health. One of the first things you can do is know thyself. Know what you can handle and what is going to be too much for you. One of the things I had to learn when I was planning my multiple trips is that I had a limit to what I could do with my depression and anxiety, my energy levels. Sometimes if you're in a situation where you're visiting somewhere unique, you want to try to pack in as much things as you can, because you have the idea like it's like a once in a lifetime moment and you have to make the most of it because you don't know if there's going to be another time. I feel like that thinking cannot help your mental health because it's just going to make you more stressed. And to be honest, if you really want to, there's no reason why you cannot visit that place again. You can save up money. What I am going to do is that the things that you did not get to do on that trip, write down and plan a time in the future where you can visit that place again and do the stuff you didn't get to do. Don't plan too many activities. Think about the things that you really want to do. And this is also something where it's like the external pressure might get to you when thinking like, oh, these famous places in this place Like in London, there's like several like iconic places you can visit, and you may feel the pressure to like see them all, especially if you only have a limited amount of time. But it's a mistake to try to cram too much into one day. It is not going to help your energy levels. It is going to make you stress because you're going to be running from one thing to the other. You're not going to have time to relax and appreciate it. Your sensory input is going to be overloaded by all the stuff you're trying to see. Your energy is going to be drained, and then that's going to affect your mood. So it's not a good idea. So I would suggest limiting the amount of activities you have for each day. And like I said, knowing yourself, knowing that if you plan on hiking to this place, are you going to be too tired to do another activity after that? Or like, how long can you keep running for that day before you need a break? Or, it depends how long the activities take and how extensive they are. But I would say probably about 3 activities is your limit in a day if you don't want to be stressed out. If they're smaller ones, maybe more. It really depends. Like I said, focus on what you know you can handle, that you'll still be able to see the things you really want to see, but you're not going to overwhelm yourself. Because typically trips last more than one day, so you're planning for multiple days, and you don't want to be totally exhausted from one day and still have to do stuff the next day. One thing I think my friend told me that helped, or maybe I told it to myself, I don't know. Maybe it was both. Is to think about the things that not only that you really want to see, but it's like, what things like do you want to look back on and be like, I'm so glad I did that. And like, not the things like, oh, I feel obligated to see this famous building or this famous museum, but to think like, I've been wanting to see this certain place for like X amount of years. I really want to see this place, and then plan your trip around that. Like when I went to Germany, my main goal there was to see the Neuschwanstein Castle. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I've been wanting to see that castle for many years, and that was my focus going there. I was in Germany for about like 3 days, 3 or 4. I was actually glad that I actually spent 2 days at the castle. My trip to Germany was stressful, partly because of the transportation. I was rushing a lot. Their transportation was not reliable, and I was stressed out. But anyway, I spent 2 days in the village by the castle, and I toured the castle. And then the second day, I went up to the castle again, and I went to, I think it's St. Mary's Bridge, where you can get a good view of the castle. And it was like crazy crowded the first day, and I didn't have time to do it, but I'm really glad I took 2 days to like take in the castle, because I feel like it was well worth it. Like it gave me a much better, like a more relaxed taking in of something I really wanted to see. And there's no way I would have done that if I had only rushed through one day there. So if there is something you really want to see, maybe make that the focal point of a day or even 2 days. I think that's better than trying to rush and see like 5 things and like barely have time to take in any of them. Another thing is realize that you may have to take it slower than other people. Other people may have more energy than you. They may not get as tired. They may have higher moods, and you may not. I feel like you should be focusing on how you can get the most enjoyment out of your trip, no matter what your struggles may be. You want to have fun, not be stressed out and miserable the whole time. Sometimes that may mean skipping something that you had planned on doing because your mood is just not there. And if you were to force yourself, it would just be a miserable experience. When it comes to transportation, that can spark anxiety. Of course, it helps to plan out in advance as much as you can. With traveling, you never know. Things may go wrong. I've had a few times where like one of my trains was canceled. One of the scariest times was when I was in Germany. It was the last train of the night to get to this town. I was in the station waiting for the train, and then the train never came. And then it was taken off the board. And I was like, okay, where's my train? Like I already had the ticket for it, but I'm like, it's like the last train to that small town tonight, and there was no staff there at all. There was just nobody. And the people who were there didn't speak English. I found one staff member who tried to help me by like showing the train on like an app, but it just showed like the same time that it was supposed to leave, which didn't help me. And I was like, trying not to freak out. I'm like, am I gonna have to spend the night in this train station? Like, can I walk to a hotel near here or like call like a cab? I'm like, I don't know what to do. But I waited, and thankfully the train came like 40 minutes late or something. So I would say I've been traveling a decent amount. And while there have been some like sketchy moments during traveling, I've always been okay. Always. If you're in a place where you don't know the language, like I was still able to manage it, you will be able to manage it for sure. Like if you miss a train, there will be another one. Like it will be okay. Like even in my sketchiest moments, like I've been fine. So I feel like just keeping that in perspective when your anxiety and stress spikes is helpful. If you're ever in doubt about something, try to ask someone for directions or help. That's the easiest way. And I feel like all my trips have been worth it, despite the times where it has made me anxious or stressed. I wanted to travel to Sherwood Forest in England, and it's very difficult to get there. Like I had to plan like I think like a 3-tiered like transportation to get there. Like I had to take 2 trains and a bus. I had to ask for directions a couple of times. Like that was probably my second most stressful. It was very stressful, and I was almost regretting the trip. I'm like, this isn't worth it. But I made it okay. I got to the forest. It was awesome. I saw the great oak tree that's like, I forget how many 100 years old. It's like really old. And like, I don't regret that trip. If I did it again, I might try to do it differently so I wasn't so stressed. And of course, I know a little bit more about the transportation now that I've been there. But if it's something you really want to do it. Unless you feel like it's going to be a threat to your health. Like if it's going to be that detrimental, then don't do it. But I feel like it's worth the uncomfortableness in the moment to do something that you really want to do. But like always, like be aware of how you can be doing self-care during that. So do what works for you. You may have to adjust your plans or put it on the next list. You may have to face disappointment with your reactions to seeing places that you have been waiting to see. So even if you don't feel the excitement you thought you would at seeing this place, you still did it. You still experienced it. You have taken pictures that you can look back on and be like, I saw that place that I've been wanting to see. It was worth it. And just accepting that, like, even if you didn't feel the way you thought you would, like, I know when I saw Niswashastan Castle for the first time, I thought it didn't look quite as impressive as I thought it would. It looks really good in pictures, but it's still like an awesome castle. I really love the inside of it, and I'm really glad I visited it. And with the anxiety stressing, like I was said, even if the planning is complicated, the transport is stressful, it's still worth it in the end. Keep things in perspective. Do things that will help you along the way. Also, crowds. There are typically a lot of crowds in well-known places because everyone wants to see them. They can be very draining and stressful. There are a lot of rude people, tourists, and just being around crowds, like pressing against you, is stressful. So get out in nature more. I found that to be helpful. There are typically parks, places in the woods, stuff like that you can visit that can help you rejuvenate, can help you relax, can help you regain some energy, especially if you're an introvert. It can give you a break from some of the more like dense crowds. Of course, it's enjoyable. Being in nature can help boost your mood if you're feeling depressed. You know, it can help relax you if you're feeling anxious. So make some time to do something in nature during your trip. Also, keep in mind to work in a day after your trip for a day of rest. Give yourself a chance to recover to just chill out. Now, of course, I was able to do this because I was going from my dorm to traveling to these places and coming back. And I did try to plan the day after I came back where I didn't have to do anything and I could just like rest and sleep. I feel like that's more helpful if it's possible with your plans to, recover your body and your mind before you're having to get right into something else without a break, because I don't feel like that's helpful for your mental health. So, traveling for the depressed and anxious. If you're traveling, I wish you well. I hope you have a wonderful time, and I hope you keep these things in mind if you're wondering how you're going to deal with it, or you are traveling and you're finding it a more difficult time than you anticipated. So look out for those 3 videos, hopefully. This is number 1 of January. All right, see you guys.